Right, the engine's ready to drop in. I've done the outer track rod ends, obviously the inner rods, just because obviously it's loads easier to do while the engine's out, rather than trying to reach down a small gap and whatever. So they're done. The only thing I need to address is power steering lines, because originally they come up across through this clip and then on this rail here, up across on the inside of here, and then to the reservoir, and then from the reservoir to the pump. Now my plan's going to be slightly different. I'm going to have one of these pipes come up into the clip, up over the gearbox to the reservoir. That'll be the return from the rack. And then I'm going to run the feed from the pump a shorter distance. I'm going to run it up through this rail and into the top here, just because it's going to make things so much easier, and it's just going to look neater. I could run it the original way, but it's using twice the material. Right, so the rack fittings, as you can see, I'm running AN6 or AN-6, which is Teflon lined. Obviously, you can't just run the rubber hose, you've got to run the Teflon stuff. Now, the plan is original bolts. You got the feed and the return. Feed's the smaller one. So, obviously, it's going the Banjo. You put, obviously, your washers in place, Banjo, and then one end of the pipe will be kind of this fitting, which will be pointing towards the driver's side rail, be coming down the rail, and then the other end of the stainless pipe is going to be this fitting here. So obviously that compresses onto your pipe, and then this fitting will go into this fitting here, which is basically an adapter that sits in the pump itself. So obviously you put a washer in between, screw that into the pump, and then that's that. So that's the power side, which will handle all the PSI that the power steering wants to give it. And then the low pressure side, which is the bigger one, again, it's the same. It's obviously a bigger Banjo, back into an AN6 fitting. And then the other side is going to be slightly different, because I'm going to then have to go AN fitting on that side. I'm waiting for this pipe, but I'll show you roughly what it is. It's going to be like an AN fitting, which will be a Banjo end. So, AN fitting, which will be a barbed end. So the return is under low pressure, and you'll see on the original part of the reservoir, there's a bit of rubber before it goes to metal. So I'm just going to cut that and then obviously poke that in and Jubilee clip it down, and that'll be fine. It's low pressure side. So there's no other kind of fancy way of doing it, because it's attached to the bottom of the reservoir by a piece of rubber. So that's kind of the neatest way I could do it. It's a 10mm fitting. But again, all the fitting sizes are in the description. Right, so how you fit these ends, you basically have your piece that comes like this. Fitting's the same, even if it's a 90. It's this bit you're dealing with. So you unscrew this part here. Take out this compression fitting. Now you cut the pipe to where you need to, and firstly by wrapping a bit of tape around it and then cutting it. The reason being, it then makes this first step easy. So you pop this piece onto here, as so. That's your first bit, and then you can then take this tape off, which I'm going to do now. You need to watch your fingers for this. So I'm kind of left with that. What you need to do is then get something preferably clean in between the stainless steel and the pipe, just to slightly bend the stainless out a little bit, very slightly. So you can see now there's a bit of flare on it. And then the next stage is to put this piece on. So you're going in that direction. You just got to make sure that the inner is nice and round. So if it's a bit misshapen like mine is, just slightly, for instance, push on this top bit, just round it up without kind of digging into it. Then you want to put this piece on. This fits over, and what you need to do is make sure that's pushed on all the way to the very end. So if you can see on the inside, the nylon or PTFE is all the way fully seated. Now the next stage, depending on how bad your fittings are, you may need to drop a bit of oil onto this part here. But the next thing is then to push this piece into there. So I normally just give it a bit of a twist as it goes in. Just double check. I'm not moving. Okay, so right, so that's butted all the way up. So at this stage, again, keeping your fingers away from this because it's proper spiky, and that's all the way up. And then I'm not going to show you with doing it with the adjustable spanner because obviously it's a bit of a pain to try and hold it at the same time. You can normally do this in a vise, but the next thing is to keep this bit pushed in. So I always kind of apply pressure and kind of push in a downwards position while holding this bit. Because what you're doing is you're screwing that part into there. So that's kind of the method I do. But obviously I'm doing it with the spanners, and I try and get that all the way up to the point until it gets pretty much solid and doesn't want to go any further. But yeah, you get the point. So once that's tightened up, that'll give you a nice finished piece. Right, so power steering pipes are done. You've got the feed that's going to come up here, loop over into the motor. Obviously that's going to be cut down, so the pump. And then this one is going to work its way over to the reservoir. And then I'm going to keep the standard pipe from the reservoir to the other side of the pump. As you can see, they're fitted down here. That's going to come up here. I'm going to sleeve some over the top of the pipe, some rubber possibly, just to kind of protect it on here. Even though stainless should protect it. I'm just going to add some extra, and then obviously the original pipe goes through the original clip. I've just chucked a tie around that because obviously there's no real pressure from the top hose because there's not one in there, so there's a bit of a tie around there, and then I'll work out how I'm going to do it on that side. But yeah, should be fairly straightforward, to be honest. And that's power steering pipes done with maximum clearance. Right, the only tip I've got is don't do it in the winter because it's absolutely freezing. I'm losing the will to live, like whether it's listening to this coronavirus stuff on the radio every day, or it's being in this ridiculously cold garage doing this stupid pointless conversion. I just can't be bothered anymore, but I'm going to crack on. I'm literally engine's going in, I've got boost pipes to do, exhaust to do, coolant pipes to do, obviously the wiring, move a few things around, modified a bumper support for the intercooler. Yeah, so yeah, lovely short list in the freezing cold. But yeah, we'll carry on. I mean, everyone gets to this point of not being bothered. I've got something cool coming next week, which kind of makes me just want to scrap this, in all honesty. But I'll carry on because I'll use this probably for a year until the other thing's done, and then I might just get rid of this. Yeah, it is what it is. So yeah, carry on. Fingers crossed I don't die of boredom or irritation by the end of the day. Fingers crossed. Right, she's in. I had a bit of a nightmare with trying to centre it left to right, because obviously I've only got about 6 or 7 mil clearance on that side, and similar on that side. There's not a massive amount of clearance. There obviously is clearance, but again, we're working with small amounts because obviously I didn't want to chassis notch it that much. The engine obviously sits on an angle that all the PDs do. If it doesn't sit on an angle, it's in wrong. This actually sits on less of an angle than the original 1.4 PD. But yeah, it sits on an angle, which means obviously the gearbox side is slightly lower. However, with the 20mm lift, like I said, that I did originally incorporate into where I've done the mount, subframe is the lowest point. So there's no need for any kind of these overpriced dark side sumps, which are obviously beatable sumps. It's pointless in doing anything because I'm massively clear of everything I need to be. That means I could run this properly slammed to the floor to the point I'm grinding out my subframe if I wanted to, and still getting the big tall 1.9 in. So yeah, I'm happy with it in now. It's just a case of bang the drive shafts on, start putting things in that I know are ready to go on, like cable selectors, etc. And then it's just working out the last couple of bits. The other issue is going to be a nightmare trying to get a 3-inch exhaust down. Don't know whether you'll see, but there's hardly any room down there for a 3-inch exhaust. But fingers crossed on that. So yeah, job's good and it's in on its own now. And if I chuck the drive shafts in, it'd be in on its own and rolling. So pretty successful hour, I suppose. Right, having a quick look at the water pipes. Now, the first thing I've kind of done is I've chopped off the end of the hard kind of pipe here. I'll show you why in a minute. So this bit kind of goes in that direction. That's been cut off. I've just filed around the edge to make sure that's all kind of smooth. And the second thing I've done is remove the pipe from here, which goes back to... Obviously, there's something on there now, but it goes back to here. So there's normally a pipe that goes from here straight down to here. And then it goes back up. And then obviously, this is the original pipe. Now, the reason I've pulled this pipe off, which is this one here, was so I could use the original Arosa bottom hose from the reservoir. So you've got that goes on the end there. And it's just enough length to get it, and pretty much the right shape to get it to go onto this pipe here, which was originally going down to the cooler. That pipe is connected to this bit here, so it's all one piece. It goes to this solid pipe and around, so the flow is exactly the same. So then, because obviously that bit's on there, I've then just got to get this bit to go to this pipe here. So the plan on that is having some silicone, which is quite a bit smaller than the bore of this, and then that's gonna sound a bit perverse, but I'm gonna lube up this part here, and I'm gonna try and push it on as far down as I can get it to give a real good fit. As soon as that's done, should have a very tidy set of coolant pipes using basically the original pipe work. The only other thing I've got to do is just do the kind of overflow, which I've just got to go and find a longer bit of pipe to run that from there. But obviously you should have 2 of these left over, so it's just going to be another one of these back bits straight up and over. And then yeah, jobs are good, and that should be the coolant pipes done. Obviously this hose comes down, you've got the 2 hoses pretty much in the original place, ready to go onto the radiator.